It was obvious that the town's journalists were truckling to the rich Yankee vacationers who'd begun to fill the fancier tourist hotels and weren't about to suggest in public print that all was not well. But in the parlors and backyards and churches, everybody remained madder than hornets, with the majority hotly loyal to the defeated Confederacy. Everybody but Addie, that is. In her mind, those who deliberately prolonged the hostility, no matter what their politics, were nothing more than ignorant, self-destructive mudsills. She stifled a yawn and was considering the ladies' fashion advertisements when the door crashed open, and a large, blond-bearded man in railroad overalls strode in, skewering her with the bluest eyes she had ever seen. "Where's Sam Willis?" She shrugged. "How should I know?" "We need a telegraph operator right now. They say Willis can handle a key." "Wouldn't do you much good to find Sam, at any rate. I threw him out an hour ago. He was drunk, and I didn't want him around. Besides, Billy Anderson is on duty at the ops shack over there, isn't he?" "Anderson's had a stroke or something." "Are you sure he isn't drunk, too? He has a fondness for the grape as big as Sam's." "I don't know what ails him, but we need an op, and right now." "No need to yell at me, mister." The blue eyes blinked. "Yell?" "You're yelling at me." The man's exasperation took on sarcasm. "Well, pardon me, Your Highness, but Billy, or whoever he is, let a jam build here, and worse yet, there's a seized break on the potato hole, and we need time to fix it so we can back it onto the pass siding and clear the jam. Meantime, we got to halt the southbound express before it clears Amity Junction, or that jam outside is going to be turned into kindling, and umpteen express passengers stand to be turned into hash. If that isn't cause for yelling, what the hell is?" Many things about herself perplexed and annoyed Addie Carson, but one of the most irritating was her capacity for the irrelevant. Here was this enormous man barking at her like a cavalry sergeant, yet within her own indignation was a spot of coolness that enabled her to wonder how a backwoods railroader could speak such tidy, Yankified English in such a beautiful, booming bass voice, and how, for all his 6-foot-something, he could be so broad-shouldered and barrel-chested without looking chunky. She willed her mind away from this nonsense. "You mean you can't wire Amity?" "What the hell do you think I've been yelling about?" "Then why are we wasting time? Lead on." "Lead on? Lead on where?" "I can handle a key." "You?" The disbelief in his stare was insulting, and she felt the heat flood her face. "So is there a law against a woman knowing how to send and receive Morse?" "Well, no." "Then, please, spare me your noisy lectures, mister, and let's get over to that ops shack." Burke was convinced that if something had been built by a man, he could eventually understand it, use it, and fix it, whether it was a machine, such as a locomotive, or a concept, such as economics and the currents of profit and loss. Where he began to move out of his depth was in those abstractions Aunt Lydia called matters of the heart. Not that he was insensitive or lacked intuition, but he was often awkward in his relations with females. His mother, the only woman he'd spent years with, had been a puzzle, what with her frequent seesawing between gaiety and sorrow, and that mercurial nature of hers had eventually made him treat any woman as a mystery deserving respectful caution. Today's situation epitomized all this. The telegraph gave him no difficulty. Since it was relatively new to the industry, he hadn't yet learned its procedures, remaining satisfied simply to accept it as a device for communicating between distant points by way of a dot-dash code sent electromagnetically over copper wires. But a woman had changed that in an instant. Here, in the presence of these ragtag, smelly Squirrel Creek nobodies, the apparatus was no longer a product of applied science. It had become the amulet of a mysterious, magic-working backwoods beanery queen. Who was she? How had she learned to do this trick? How and why had someone so obviously different, so special, materialized in this godforsaken subtropical nowhere? As she settled into the ops desk swivel chair and began to fuss with the sending key, he studied her for clues. She looked to be about 30, and it was obvious that life wasn't easy for her. struggling as she was on the rim of a masculine world, but it was also clear that this truth in no way daunted her. She wasn't tall, but she carried herself, shoulders back, chin high, so as to suggest a regality that somehow raised her above those around her and made her central to any setting. Her dark hair, shiny and thick and tied in a bun, and even her dress, an ankle-length thing of nondescript cloth protected by a clean white apron, contributed to this impression of height and command. Nor did she display any of the coarseness he'd found to be so prevalent among country women. On the contrary, she was comely and refined, to a degree that would be acceptable in any society, and there was a something, sweetness, serenity, that he'd never before seen in a woman's face. Yet in all of this was a paradox, the intimation of sensuality barely contained, and it was mainly this quality that intrigued him. Despite her surface composure, he sensed an underlying volcanic passion that could, given the appropriate conditions, erupt spectacularly. She was staring across the room, where Billy Anderson lay on a work table, flat on his back and motionless. "Somebody should see to poor Billy over there."
"Ain't anything anybody can do for Billy, ma'am," one of the conductors said. "He's dead. Died 10 minutes ago."
She received the news, considered it, then nodded in the manner of one who has just been reminded that the sun rises in the east. "He's been working on that for years." Burke, suddenly annoyed with himself and breaking free of his erotic speculations, pointed to the wall clock.
"Send the message. We're running out of time."
She scanned the faces around her. "What's the call?" No one spoke. "I need to know how to call the Amity signalman." The men exchanged baffled glances.
"Look in the desk drawers," Burke said. "There should be a call card somewhere around. It's regulations."
She gave him a level stare. "You look. I'll try to send an open message while you look for the card." Burke shook his head.
"Amity won't answer without the proper identity code. It's a security measure to be sure unauthorized people aren't tapping onto the line."
"Well," she said coolly, "I'm not going to sit here doing nothing. Look for the card while I try it." The long fingers of her right hand seemed to cup the key, and with barely discernible movements began to send. As the instrument clattered, she spoke the words. "Calling Amity signal. Wreck warning. Repeat. Wreck warning. Absolutely necessary. You stop. Southbound express. Jam on main end. Sebastian Curve." They waited, and the only sound in the room was the rustling and slamming of Burke's desk drawer search. The set clicked briefly.
"What's he say?"
one of the conductors demanded tensely. Addie shrugged. "He wants my identity. He won't answer until he knows my signal is real company business." There was a round of exasperated glances.
"What the hell?" Burke blurted. "Here it is." He had it fixed to the writing leaf. "The call for Amity is KN, and for Squirrel Creek it's KK."
Her hand resumed its tiny oscillations, and the clicking was loud, insistent. They waited. Then came an answering clatter. Burke saw the woman's face go pale.
"What did he say?"
She was struggling to keep her composure. "Amity says we're too late. The express passed there 2 minutes ago."
"Oh, my God."
She gave him a quick look. "Did anybody think to send out a signalman?"
"Hell yes," Burke snapped. "But the San Sebastian curve is a long one, 1.5 miles at least. He'll never get out there far enough and in time to signal a healthy stop."
The woman pushed back from the wire desk and stood. She pointed to the flag box in a corner. "Grab a couple of those flags and come with me."
"Come where?"
"My horse and buggy are in the shed behind the canteen. We'll ride the county road north of the 2-mile marker. From there we can cut across the pasture and start flagging where the high iron goes into the San Sebastian. It's our only chance. Unless we get to where the curve starts before the express does, the express is going to keep going, blind, at a speed that'll surely take it smack into that jam out there, no matter where your flagman starts waving.